The champagne flute slipped from my fingers before Marcus even finished his sentence. Crystal exploded against Italian marble, and for one crystalline moment, the only sound in the Chateau Marmont ballroom was 300 people collectively holding their breath. Because let's be honest, everyone here knows Sarah was never really the one, were you, sweetheart? My husband of exactly 37 minutes stood at the microphone, bow tie askew, face flushed with Dom Perignon and something far more intoxicating than alcohol, the rush of finally telling the truth. His words hung in the air like smoke from a house fire, visible and choking and impossible to take back. I mean, look at her. Marcus gestured toward me with his champagne flute, and 300 pairs of eyes followed his direction like a spotlight I never asked for. Sweet little Sarah, always trying so hard to be enough. But we both know I settled, don't we, darling? The wedding coordinator's clipboard clattered to the floor. Someone's grandmother gasped audibly. My mother's face had gone the color of bone china, the same shade as my dress. The dress I'd spent 11 months choosing, 11 months believing it would make me beautiful enough to deserve this moment. Marcus, stop. The voice came from behind me, low and urgent. James, his best man, his college roommate, the one who'd given the toast just minutes before this public execution. But Marcus waved him off with the casual cruelty of a man who'd already decided to burn everything down. No, let me finish. This is my wedding day, right? My moment of truth. His eyes found mine across the room, and I saw something I'd never seen before, not just cruelty, but relief. The relief of a man finally saying what he'd been thinking for months, maybe years. You want to know the real joke? She actually thought I loved her. Can you imagine? Poor little Sarah, so desperate to be chosen that she convinced herself I was choosing her. The silence that followed was deafening. 300 people holding their breath, waiting to see if I would crumble or fight. Waiting to see what happens when a woman realizes her entire life has been a performance she didn't know she was giving. I stood there in my Vera Wang dress, the one that had cost more than my car, the one I'd believed would transform me into someone worthy of being loved, and felt something shift inside my chest. Not breaking, exactly. More like settling, like a bone that had been fractured for years finally snapping cleanly. The question wasn't why he'd done this. The question was what I was going to do about it. Behind me, I heard James's voice again, sharper now. Marcus, you're drunk. You need to stop talking. Drunk on honesty, my friend. It's drunk on finally being real. Marcus took another sip of champagne, and I watched him savor it like a man tasting freedom. Do you know how exhausting it is pretending to love someone? How much energy it takes to fake being happy? The crowd began to murmur, that low buzz of people who didn't know whether to stay or leave, whether to intervene or pretend this wasn't happening. I could see my bridesmaids frozen at their table, my college roommate with tears streaming down her face, my sister halfway out of her chair like she was preparing to charge the stage. But I didn't move, couldn't move, because somewhere in the midst of this public humiliation, I was having the strangest realization. I wasn't surprised. Devastated, yes. Humiliated beyond measure, absolutely. But not surprised, because deep down, in a place I'd been afraid to look, I'd always known. The truth is, Marcus continued, his voice carrying easily over the murmurs, I proposed because it seemed like the right time. Because everyone expected it. Because Sarah had been dropping hints for 2 years, and it was easier to give her what she wanted than to have the conversation about why I didn't want to give it to her. Each word landed like a physical blow, but I remained standing, remained still, remained present in this moment that was rewriting the story of my entire adult life. So here's to honesty. Marcus raised his glass to the room. Here's to finally admitting that sometimes love isn't enough. Sometimes it isn't even love at all. That's when I finally moved. Not toward the exit, not toward him, not toward the comfort of my family's arms. Instead, I bent down and carefully picked up the largest piece of broken crystal from my shattered champagne flute. The sharp edge bit into my palm, drawing a thin line of blood that seemed appropriate somehow. A small pain to acknowledge the enormous one. When I straightened up, the room had gone completely silent. Even Marcus had stopped talking, perhaps finally realizing that he'd crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. I looked at him, really looked at him, this man I'd planned to spend my life with, and felt something I hadn't expected. Clarity. Thank you, I said quietly, my voice carrying in the silence, for finally being honest. And then I walked toward the French doors that led to the garden, my train whispering against the marble like secrets being told. like promises being broken, like a woman finally learning the difference between being chosen and being settled for. The December air hit my bare shoulders like a benediction, cold and clean and honest in a way that the ballroom had never been. I welcomed the bite of winter against my skin, the way it made everything sharp and real and immediate. The chateau's garden was strewn with thousands of fairy lights that turned the frost on the rose bushes into scattered diamonds. It was beautiful, absurdly, heartbreakingly beautiful. The kind of setting where love stories were supposed to begin, not end. I sat on the stone bench where we'd taken our engagement photos 8 months ago, where Marcus had kissed me and whispered that I was his forever, where the photographer had captured what I thought was love but now realized was just good lighting and better acting. The dress pooled around me like spilled cream, and I thought about all the hours I'd spent choosing it, standing in front of mirrors, turning this way and that, asking myself if this was the dress that would make him see me the way I'd always wanted to be seen. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd found the perfect dress for a wedding that was perfect in every way except the one that mattered, Sarah. I didn't turn around, didn't need to. I knew that voice, had heard it give a toast about friendship and love and forever just an hour ago. James had always been the steady one, the one who cleaned up Marcus's messes, who smoothed over his rough edges. But there was something different in his voice now, something that sounded like grief. Is he looking for me? I asked, still facing the garden. No. The honesty in his answer surprised me. He's holding court, telling people this was inevitable, that you'll both be happier now. Will we? I don't know. Will you? I finally turned to look at him. James had loosened his tie and run his hands through his usually perfect hair. His face was pale in the fairy lights, his expression something I'd never seen before, not just embarrassment for his friend's behavior, but genuine anger. Did you know? The question came out quieter than I'd intended. Not like this. Never like this. He sat down beside me, careful to leave space between us. But did I know he was having doubts? Yes. Did I tell him he was an idiot for marrying you if he wasn't sure? Also, yes. And what did he say? He said marriage was about commitment, not just feelings, that he cared about you enough to try. James's laugh was bitter. I actually thought that was mature of him. Shows what I know about anything. We sat in silence, watching our breath cloud in the cold air. Inside, I could hear the party continuing, or trying to. The band had started playing again, something soft and instrumental that was probably meant to smooth over the awkwardness. As if music could fix what had just been shattered. What happens now? I asked, more to myself than to him. Now you go inside, hold your head high, and show everyone that you're stronger than he'll ever be. I looked at him then, really looked. Is that what you'd do? No, he said quietly. I'd probably burn the place down. But you're better than me. Better than both of us. A couple emerged from the ballroom onto the terrace. My aunt and uncle, I realized, probably looking for me. When they saw us sitting together, they hesitated, then retreated back inside. The gesture was small, but telling. Even my own family didn't know how to navigate this new reality. He invited her, didn't he? The words came out before I could stop them. James went very still beside me. What? His girlfriend. The one he's been seeing. She's here tonight. The silence stretched between us like a chasm. When James finally spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. How did you know? Because you wouldn't look this guilty if it was just about the speech. I turned to face him fully. How long, Sarah? How long, James? 6 months. The words fell between us like stones. Maybe 7. I found out 3 weeks ago, and you said nothing. I confronted him. I told him he had to choose end it with her or call off the wedding. He promised me he'd handle it. By humiliating me in public instead of having an honest conversation in private? I never thought. James stopped, shook his head. I should have told you. I should have found a way to tell you. I stood up, suddenly needing to move, to feel my feet on solid ground. The train of my dress caught on the bench, and I heard the delicate sound of beating, tearing. Another small destruction in a night full of them. What's her name? Sarah, please, what's her name? Claire. Her name is Claire. Is she here? Right now? James nodded miserably. Navy blue dress, blonde hair. She's been at the bar most of the night, looking like she wants to disappear. I bet she does. I walked to the edge of the terrace, looking out over the city lights spread below us like fallen stars. Do you think she knows? About tonight? About what he was planning to do? I don't know, maybe. Does it matter? It matters to me. I turned back to him, and something in my expression made him straighten up. I want to meet her. Sarah, that's not. I want to meet the woman my husband loves more than me. I want to look her in the eye and see what I was competing against without even knowing I was in a competition. That's a terrible idea. Probably. But I'm going to do it anyway. James stood up, and I could see him weighing his options, trying to find a way to talk me out of what he clearly thought was emotional suicide. But there was something in my voice, something in the way I was standing, that must have told him I'd already made up my mind. What do you want me to do? Find her. Bring her to the library. Tell her I want to talk. And if she refuses? She won't. I smoothed down my dress, feeling the torn beadings scratch against my palms. She's been watching this train wreck all night. She's curious about me. About what kind of woman inspires this level of public cruelty. James hesitated for another moment, then nodded. Give me 5 minutes. As he walked back toward the ballroom, I remained on the terrace, listening to the distant sounds of my wedding reception continuing without me. Laughter and music and the clink of glasses, as if nothing had changed. As if the bride hadn't just discovered that her entire marriage was built on a foundation of lies and settling. But something had changed. Not just my marriage, not just my understanding of Marcus, but something fundamental about how I saw myself. For the first time in years, maybe ever, I felt like I was about to stop being a passenger in my own life. The fairy lights twinkled overhead, and I thought about the woman I'd been an hour ago. The woman who'd believed that being chosen was the same thing as being loved. The woman who'd been so grateful to be wanted that she'd never stopped to ask if she was valued. That woman was gone now, left behind in the ballroom with the shattered champagne glass and the echoes of cruel laughter. The woman standing on this terrace was someone new. Someone who was about to walk into a room and have a conversation that would either destroy her completely or set her free. I was betting on freedom. She was even more beautiful than I'd imagined. Claire walked into the library like she was approaching a crime scene, careful. Ready to run, her navy blue dress elegant in a way that made my wedding gown feel like a costume. She had the kind of beauty that didn't need to announce itself, the kind that made other women feel inadequate without quite knowing why. You wanted to see me? Her voice was softer than I'd expected, almost apologetic. I wanted to see the woman my husband loves more than me. She flinched as if I'd slapped her. Sarah, how long have you known about tonight? About what he was planning to do? I didn't know. I swear I didn't know he was going to... She stopped, realizing that anything she said would be an admission of guilt. But you knew he didn't love me. The silence stretched between us like a confession. She looked down at her hands, at the wine glass she was clutching like a lifeline. Her nails were perfectly manicured, painted a soft pink that complemented her dress. Everything about her was perfectly put together, perfectly appropriate, the kind of woman who belonged at events like this. You knew, I continued, and you came anyway. You came to my wedding and watched me walk down the aisle to a man you've been sleeping with for 6 months. And you said nothing. It wasn't my place, it wasn't your place. The words came out sharper than I'd intended, and I saw her step back. It wasn't your place to tell me that my fiancé was cheating on me, or it wasn't your place to stay away from my wedding. I tried to end it, multiple times, but he said, what did he say? She looked up at me then, and I saw something unexpected in her eyes, not just guilt, but genuine pain. He said he was going to leave you after the wedding, that he just needed to get through it, and then we could be together. And you believed him. I wanted to believe him. The honesty in her voice caught me off guard. I'd expected defensiveness, maybe anger. I hadn't expected this quiet shame, this admission that she'd been as naive as I had, just in a different way. I walked to the window, looking out at the garden where I'd sat in my wedding dress just 20 minutes ago, trying to process the end of my life as I'd known it. The fairy lights were still twinkling, still beautiful, still lying about the nature of romance. Do you love him? The question hung between us like a challenge. When I turned back to face her, she was staring at me with something that might have been surprise. Yes, even after tonight? Even after what he just did to me in front of 300 people. Her silence was answer enough. You know what the funny thing is? I said, moving closer to her. I don't think I love him. I thought I did, but now I'm wondering if I just love the idea of being chosen, of being enough for someone. Sarah, but you actually love him, even knowing what kind of man he is, what he's capable of. You love him anyway. She set down her wine glass with shaking hands. What do you want from me? An apology? Because I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for all of this. I don't want an apology. I sat down in one of the leather chairs, feeling the weight of my dress settle around me like armor. I want to understand. I want to know what it is about him that makes you willing to be his secret. What it is about him that makes you think this. I gestured toward the door. Toward the ballroom, where my marriage had just died in public, is worth it. Claire remained standing, but I could see her composure starting to crack. You don't understand. It's not like that. Then explain it to me. When we're together, he's different. He's funny and smart, and he listens to me. Really listens. He makes me feel like I'm the only person in the world. And with me? I don't know. I never saw you together, but you knew he was with me. You knew he was planning to marry me, and you were okay with that? No. The word came out like a sob. I wasn't okay with it. I hated it. I hated myself for it. But I couldn't stop. Why not? Because I thought... She stopped, shook her head. This is going to sound pathetic. Try me. I thought if I was patient enough, if I was understanding enough, if I was perfect enough, he'd choose me. Really choose me. Not just for stolen moments and secret phone calls, but for real. I stared at her. This beautiful, accomplished woman who'd been willing to accept crumbs from a man who was feeding someone else the whole meal. How long were you willing to wait? Forever, apparently. Her laugh was bitter. God. Listening to myself say that out loud, ... I sound like an idiot. You sound like someone in love with someone who doesn't deserve it. And you sound like someone who's handling this better than I would. I'm not handling it, I'm surviving it. There's a difference. Claire finally sat down, perching on the edge of the chair across from me like she was ready to flee at any moment. What happens now? Now you go back out there and you find Marcus and you tell him exactly what you told me. That you love him. That you want to be with him. That you're tired of being his secret. I can't. Yes, you can. Because if you really love him, you'll save him from himself. You'll stop letting him live this lie. What about you? I smiled then, and it felt like the first genuine expression I'd worn all day. I'm going to do what I should have done the moment he opened his mouth at that microphone. I'm going to walk away. Just like that? Just like that. She stared at me for a long moment, and I could see her trying to understand how I could be so calm, so controlled. How I could sit there in my wedding dress and orchestrate my own divorce before the marriage was even consummated. I don't understand you, she said finally. What don't you understand? How you can be so ... gracious about this. If someone did to me what Marcus just did to you, I'd want to destroy them. Destruction is easy, I said, standing up and smoothing down my dress. It's creation that's hard. And right now I'm more interested in creating a life where I'm valued than destroying one where I wasn't. You're not angry? Oh, I'm furious. But not at you, not even at Marcus, really. I'm angry at myself for accepting so little for so long. For being so grateful to be chosen that I never stopped to ask if I was being valued. Claire stood up too, and for a moment we faced each other across the small space. Two women who'd been tangled up in the same man's inability to be honest about what he wanted. Can I ask you something? She said. Of course. Do you think he'll actually choose me? After tonight? I considered the question seriously, thinking about the man I'd known for 3 years, the man who'd just humiliated me in front of everyone I cared about rather than have an honest conversation in private. I think Marcus will choose whoever makes him feel like the hero of his own story, I said finally. The question is, do you want to be with someone who needs you to make him feel heroic? Or do you want to be with someone who sees you as the hero of yours? She didn't answer, but I could see the question settling into her mind like a seed. There's something else, she said as I moved toward the door. What? There's a letter. Marcus wrote you a letter. He gave it to James before the ceremony, told him to give it to you if things went badly. Things went badly. I think he knew. I think part of him knew he was going to do this. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. Where's the letter? James has it. He's been carrying it around all night, looking like he wants to burn it. And you know this how? Because I saw him show it to Marcus an hour ago. They had words about it. James looked like he wanted to hit him. I nodded, filing this information away like evidence in a case I was building against my own life. Thank you for telling me, Sarah, she called after me as I reached the door. For what it's worth, I think you're extraordinary. And I think Marcus is an idiot for not seeing it. I turned back to look at her one last time, this woman who'd been my unwitting rival, who'd loved the same man I'd thought I loved, who'd been willing to accept his secrets and lies because she thought that was what love looked like. Claire, I said, you deserve better than being someone's secret. We both do. And then I walked out of the library, leaving her sitting alone with her wine and her regrets, and the slowly dawning realization that maybe, just maybe, being chosen wasn't the same thing as being cherished. The hallway was empty, but I could hear voices from the ballroom, the party continuing. Life moving forward, the world spinning on its axis, despite the fact that mine had just shifted completely. I needed to find James. I needed to see that letter. But first, I needed to understand why Marcus had written it, and why he'd given it to his best man instead of his bride. I found James in the coat room, sitting on a bench between rows of hanging furs and winter coats, holding an envelope like it might explode. His bow tie was completely undone now, hanging around his neck like a noose, and his face had the hollow look of a man who'd watched his best friend commit social suicide. She told you about the letter, he said without looking up. She did. I closed the door behind me, sealing us into this small space that smelled of expensive perfume and winter wool. How long have you been hiding in here? 20 minutes. Maybe 30. I lost track. He finally looked at me, and I saw something in his eyes that made my breath catch. Not just guilt, but genuine anguish. I keep thinking, if I don't give this to you, maybe none of this really happened. But it did happen. Yeah, it did. I sat down beside him on the bench, careful not to let my dress touch the floor. The envelope in his hands was cream-colored, expansive paper that matched our wedding invitations. My name was written across it in Marcus's familiar handwriting, the same handwriting that had signed our marriage. Certificate less than 2 hours ago. What does it say? I don't know. I didn't read it. James turned the envelope over in his hands like he was examining evidence. He gave it to me right before the ceremony. Said to give it to you if things went sideways. Things went sideways? His exact words. I stared at the envelope. This final communication from the man who'd just destroyed our marriage in front of 300 people. He planned this. I think so. Yeah, he knew he was going to humiliate me, and he wrote me a letter to explain why. Sarah, give it to me. James hesitated, then handed over the envelope. It felt heavier than it should have, weighted with explanations I wasn't sure I wanted to hear. My name on the front looked strange in Marcus's handwriting, like a word in a foreign language. I opened it carefully, aware that James was watching me, aware that whatever was inside would either provide closure or tear open wounds that were just beginning to form. The paper inside was thick, expensive, covered in Marcus's careful script. Sarah, if you're reading this, then I've done something unforgivable, and James has had to give you this letter. I'm sorry. I know that's not enough, but I'm sorry anyway. I've been trying to write this for weeks, trying to find a way to explain what I can't even explain to myself. The truth is, I don't know when I stopped loving you. Maybe I never started. Maybe what I felt was gratitude or comfort, or just the relief of having someone who thought I was worth loving. You deserve better than that. You deserve someone who sees you the way you see yourself, as extraordinary, as worthy of grand gestures and epic love stories. You deserve someone who doesn't have to try to love you. I know this makes me a coward. I know I should have had this conversation with you privately, should have ended things before they got this far. But I couldn't bear to see the look in your eyes when I told you the truth. I couldn't bear to be the one who broke your heart in private. So instead, I'm breaking it in public, which makes me not just a coward but a monster. Claire doesn't know about tonight. She doesn't know what I'm planning to do. She thinks I'm going to leave you quietly, after the wedding, after the honeymoon, after enough time has passed that it looks like we tried. She has no idea that I'm about to destroy everything in the most spectacular way possible. I'm doing this because I can't live with the lie anymore. I can't wake up next to you every morning knowing that you love me more than I love you. I can't keep pretending that this is enough, that settling is the same thing as choosing. You'll hate me for this. You should hate me for this. But maybe, someday, you'll understand that I'm setting you free to find someone who doesn't have to convince himself to love you. I'm sorry, Sarah, for all of it. For wasting your time, for breaking your heart, for doing it this way. You deserved better than me, and you deserved better than this. But maybe now you'll go find it. Marcus P.S. James doesn't know what's in this letter. Don't blame him for any of this. He tried to talk me out of it. He's a better friend to you than I ever was a husband. The letter fluttered to my lap as my hands went numb. I could hear James breathing beside me, could feel him waiting for me to react, to cry or scream or fall apart. But I felt strangely calm, like I was reading someone else's mail, someone else's tragedy. He knew, I said finally. He knew exactly what he was going to do. And he did it anyway. Sarah, he wrote this letter to make himself feel better about destroying me in public, to convince himself that humiliating me was somehow an act of kindness. I stood up, the letter falling to the floor, and began to pace the small space between the coats. The beading on my dress caught the overhead light, sending tiny rainbows across the walls like scattered promises. "Do you know what the worst part is?" I said, turning to face James. "He's right. I did love him more than he loved me. I was so grateful to be chosen that I never stopped to ask if I was being valued. That doesn't make what he did okay. No, it doesn't. But it makes it honest." James picked up the letter from the floor, folded it carefully, and held it out to me. "What are you going to do?" "I'm going to go back out there." "Sarah, you don't have to." "Yes, I do." I took the letter from him and slipped it into the small purse. I'd been carrying the one that was supposed to hold my lipstick for touch-ups and mints for the receiving line. I'm going to go back out there, and I'm going to face everyone who just watched my marriage implode, and I'm going to show them that I'm stronger than Marcus thinks I am. And then I'm going to find Claire, and I'm going to tell her that she can have him. That she can have a man who thinks love is something you have to convince yourself to feel. Who thinks destroying someone publicly is kinder than having an honest conversation privately. You're going to give him to her? I'm not giving him to anyone. I'm setting myself free. James stood up, and in the small space of the coat room, we were suddenly very close. I could smell his cologne, could see the flecks of gold in his brown eyes, could feel the warmth radiating from his body in the cool air. "Sarah," he said quietly, "there's something else you should know." "What?" "I've been in love with you for 2 years." The words hung between us like a confession, like a secret that had been burning a hole in his chest. I stared at him. This man who'd been Marcus's shadow for so long, I'd stopped seeing him as separate. Stopped seeing him at all. "James, I know the timing is terrible, and I know you probably think I'm taking advantage of the situation. But I couldn't let you walk back out there thinking that no one sees you. That no one values you the way you deserve to be valued. Why didn't you say anything?" "Because you were happy. Or I thought you were happy. And because Marcus is my best friend, and you don't betray your best friend by falling in love with his fiancée. But you're telling me now. Because after tonight, Marcus isn't my best friend anymore. And because you need to know that what he's said out there about you not being enough, about him settling, it's not true. You're not the consolation prize, Sarah. You're the grand prize that he was too stupid to appreciate." I reached up and touched his face, feeling the slight stubble on his jaw, the warmth of his skin. "James, I'm not asking for anything," he said quickly. "I'm not expecting anything. I just needed you to know that someone sees you, really sees you, and thinks you're extraordinary." For a moment, we stood there in the coat room surrounded by the winter clothes of wedding guests, and I felt something I hadn't felt in months seen, valued, cherished in a way that had nothing to do with gratitude or settling or convincing someone to love me. "Thank you," I whispered. "For what? For seeing me, for telling me, for being brave enough to say what Marcus never could. What are you going to do now?" I stepped back, smoothed down my dress, and checked my reflection in the small mirror by the door. My makeup was still perfect, my hair still elaborately pinned. I looked like a bride. I looked like someone's dream come true. Now I'm going to go back to my wedding reception and show everyone, including myself, what grace under fire looks like. And after that, I'm going to start over. I'm going to build a life where I'm valued, not settled for. Where I'm chosen, not just accepted. "Can I?" James stopped, shook his head. "Never mind what, can I call you? In a few weeks when all this is settled? When you've had time to process everything?" I smiled then, the first real smile I'd felt all evening. "I'd like that." "Really? Really? But James?" "Yeah? Next time you fall in love with someone, tell them. Don't wait 2 years. Don't wait for their world to fall apart. Just tell them. I'll remember that." I opened the door to the coat room, and the sounds of the party rushed in, laughter and music and the clink of glasses. As if nothing had changed. As if the bride hadn't just discovered that her entire marriage was built on lies and good intentions. But something had changed. Not just my marriage, not just my understanding of Marcus, but something fundamental about how I saw myself. I was done being grateful for scraps. Done accepting less than I deserved. Done believing that love was something you had to earn rather than something you were worthy of simply by existing. Marcus had thought he was setting me free by destroying me publicly. He had no idea how right he was. The ballroom fell silent when I walked back in. Not the shocked silence of Marcus's speech, but something deeper. The kind of quiet that comes when people realize they're witnessing something significant, something that will be talked about for years to come. 300 faces turned toward me as I moved through the room, my train whispering against the marble floor like a prayer. I could see my mother at table 6, tears streaming down her face. My sister halfway out of her chair, ready to rush to my defense. My college roommate with her hand over her mouth, staring at me like I was a ghost. But I kept walking, kept my head high, kept my expression serene. Because this was my moment, not Marcus's moment of cruel honesty, not the moment when my marriage died in public, but the moment when I chose grace over destruction, dignity over revenge. Marcus was at the bar, surrounded by a small group of his groomsmen who looked like they were trying to talk him down from a ledge. When he saw me approaching, his face went white, and the conversation around him died. "Sarah," he said, his voice hoarse. "I don't." I held up one hand, and he fell silent. "You've said enough for one evening." The groomsmen melted away, sensing that this was a conversation that required privacy. Even in a room full of people, Marcus and I suddenly stood alone, facing each other across the wreckage of our marriage. "I read your letter," I said quietly. "Sarah, I'm sorry. I know that doesn't fix anything, but you're right. It doesn't fix anything. But it does explain everything. I never meant for it to happen like this." "Yes, you did." I said it gently, without accusation. "You planned this, Marcus. You wrote that letter, you gave it to James, and you stood up there and destroyed me in front of everyone we know because it was easier than having an honest conversation. You couldn't bear to see the look in my eyes when you told me the truth. I know. You wrote that in your letter." Marcus looked around the ballroom, at the guests who were pretending not to watch us, at the wedding decorations that now seemed like props in a play that had gone horribly wrong. "What happens now?" he asked. "Now you go find Claire, and you tell her that you're free to be together. That you don't have to sneak around anymore, don't have to be anyone's secret. And you? I'm going to annul our marriage, pack up my apartment, and start over somewhere new. Somewhere where I can build a life where I'm valued, not settled for. Sarah, I did care about you. I do care about you, I know. And I did know." I could see it in his face, the genuine regret, the real affection. But caring isn't the same as loving. And settling isn't the same as choosing. "You taught me that tonight." "I'm sorry," he said again, and this time I believed him. "I know you are. But Marcus? Yeah? Next time you fall in love with someone, make sure it's actually love. Make sure you're not just grateful for their attention, or comfortable with their presence, or relieved that they think you're worth loving. Make sure you actually love them back. How will I know?" I smiled then, thinking about James in the coat room, about the way he'd looked at me when he said I was extraordinary. "You'll know because you won't have to convince yourself. You won't have to try. It will just be true." Marcus nodded, and I could see him processing this, filing it away for future reference. "Will you be okay?" "I'll be better than okay. I'll be free." I turned to walk away, then stopped and looked back at him one more time. "Marcus? Yeah? Thank you." "For what?" "For finally being honest. For setting me free to find someone who doesn't have to convince himself to love me." I left him standing at the bar and made my way across the ballroom, stopping at tables to say goodbye to family and friends, accepting their hugs and their whispered words of support, their promises to call, their assurances that I was better off without him, and I was. I could feel it in my bones, in the way I carried myself, in the lightness that was starting to replace the weight I'd been carrying for months without even realizing it. At the exit, I found James waiting for me with my coat. "Leaving?" he asked. "Leaving." I let him help me into the coat, feeling his hands gentle on my shoulders. "What about you?" "I think I'm done with this party too." "James?" "Yeah?" "Thank you. For the letter, for the honesty, for seeing me. For all of it. Thank you for letting me tell you." We walked out of the chateau together, into the December night that was cold and clear and full of possibility. The valet brought my car around, and James opened the door for me, ever the gentleman. "Sarah?" he said as I settled into the driver's seat. "Yeah?" "When you're ready, when you've had time to process all this, I meant what I said about calling you. I meant what I said about wanting you to." Good. I drove home through the empty streets of Los Angeles, still wearing my wedding dress, still carrying the letter that had explained everything and changed nothing. The radio was playing something soft and sad, but I turned it off. I wanted to sit with the silence, with the strange peace that had settled over me like snow. My apartment was exactly as I'd left it that morning, coffee cup in the sink, wedding shoes by the door, the life of a woman who'd thought she was about to become someone's wife. But I wasn't that woman anymore. I was someone new, someone who understood the difference between being chosen and being settled for, between being loved and being accepted. I hung up my wedding dress carefully, reverently, like the costume from a play I'd never perform again. Then I made myself a cup of tea and sat by the window, looking out at the city lights and thinking about the future. Somewhere out there, Marcus and Claire were probably having the conversation they should have had months ago. Somewhere else, James was probably wondering if he'd done the right thing by telling me how he felt. And here I was, in between all of it, finally learning what it felt like to be enough for myself. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Thank you for tonight. For your grace, for your honesty, for showing me what real strength looks like. Hope you find everything you're looking for." See, I typed back quickly. "I hope you both do." Then I deleted the conversation and turned off my phone. Outside my window, the city sparkled like scattered diamonds, like promises waiting to be made, like a future full of possibility. I thought about the woman I'd been that morning, so desperate to be chosen that she'd convinced herself settling was the same as love. That woman was gone now, left behind in a ballroom with shattered champagne glasses and broken promises. The woman sitting by this window was someone new. Someone who knew her worth, who understood that being alone was better than being with someone who made you feel alone. Someone who was finally ready to be chosen by someone who didn't have to convince himself to love her. I'm free, I thought, and for the first time in years, it felt like the truest thing I'd ever said.